Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Selfcare and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Thanks so much for joining me for another conversation with Women Living Well After 50 on the podcast. Self-compassion. Now, we show compassion to other people, don't we? But sometimes we're not quite so good at showing that to ourselves. My guest today in conversation is Maria Paterakis, the future-proofing counsellor. I'm going to talk about self-compassion with Maria, and she's going to share some tips and ideas with us on how we can become more compassionate with ourselves. Maria has over 25 years' experience and passion for helping people, communities, and businesses reach their full potential. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Maria. It's lovely to have you once again as a guest on the podcast, and always look forward to our chats.
I love being here. You know that, Sue. Otherwise, I wouldn't come.
No, I
enjoy it every single time.
Yeah, me too.
Great talking to you.
Okay, now today we're talking about healing through self-compassion. And I just wondered if we could just sort of go back to the basics and actually explain what compassion is, the difference between compassion and sympathy, and also between compassion and self-compassion.
Yeah.
So that area there, just drilling right down.
And you know, it can be a challenge to understand the differences sometimes because they're very nuanced. They're not, sometimes very obvious. But compassion is defined by having a deep empathy for another person, and it's really about wanting to remove their suffering, to take their suffering and support them through it. You hold their hand through it, and that you walk with them. Right? So it's a walking in another person's shoes, understanding through that walking in their shoes. How it's different from sympathy, or empathy and sympathy really is what we're talking about, the difference, the foundation, because empathy is the foundation of compassion. We're talking about sympathy is really about feeling exactly what they're feeling. And what can happen when you do that is you can actually go into the burrow with them. So if they are in severe distress, if you start to feel what they're feeling, then you can start to feel all that distress, and then you are unable to help them. You're unable to support them because you end up needing support and saving yourself.
Yeah.
So it's really important to try and keep those clear in your head. A counsellor, a coach, anyone who's in the helping profession really needs to focus on that empathy and that the compassion through empathy rather than sympathy, because that's how then you can end up, with vicarious trauma and a whole bunch of other things by getting really into the emotions with your clients or with people that you care about. Having said that, you can get compassion fatigue as well.
Yes.
Have you heard of compassion fatigue?
No, I haven't, but I would think it's a bit like when we talk about, we're just giving all the time to other people, and we just get drained of energy because we're just giving out all the time. Or I suppose it could be, so you can explain to us what that is.
And if I give you the example, is that you sometimes when you hear the same story over and over and over again, you might have some loved ones that tell the same stories over and over and over again, and you start to lose your ability to have empathy for them or compassion for them, because you start to feel like they are not deserving of your help. Because anything you've done hasn't helped today. So you lose that ability to help.
You
lose that ability to walk with them, because you've tried to walk with them, you've tried to walk with them, you've tried to walk with them, and none of it has helped.
Mm. Mm.
So that's, I guess, where self-compassion comes in, and knowing your limits.
Mm. So what
You know?
is self-compassion then? The difference there?
Yeah. So the difference is that you're just doing it for yourself.
Which
all
is
those
difficult.
things that you're doing can be very difficult. So I have a quote here by the Dalai Lama, and it says, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want you to be happy, practice compassion. Now, that's about when we help others, of course, we release oxytocin in our body, and all these fantastic hormones get released. And so we do feel better when we help others. But it has to be a giving and receiving. We also need to accept help from others. And we need to provide ourselves with that help for ourselves. What the underlying belief with compassion is that someone is deserving of your help. Now, if you have a deep down belief that you're not deserving of assistance and help, that is rooted in whatever trauma or beliefs or childhood programming or whatever might have come up. For example, I'll give you an example. There is a style of parenting which is a dismissive parenting, where you get shooed away a lot. When you ask for help, you get pushed away. No, I'm busy. No, I'm this. No, I'm that. No, go away and talk to someone else. So if you receive a lot of that style of parenting, you can maybe come to believe you're not deserving of help. So therefore, you don't believe in doing it for yourself. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And I just think that, you know, we were talking before we came on air that it is so difficult to say, you know, you show compassion to other people, but you just, you know, you're so hard on yourself, and you forget to be compassionate to yourself when you're going through periods of trauma or just life sometimes. And we're so hard on ourselves.
Absolutely. And, you know, you can leave the playground, or you can leave a difficult relationship where you might have been bullied. You've left a workplace where all of that has happened. But if you continue to do that in your own head, you're continuing that cycle of, you know, and lack of compassion for yourself and support. So why is this so important? And if we just go to the mental health realities of not having any compassion for yourself, I've pulled out a Harvard Health Publishing article just for today, just to make it clear. The benefits include lower levels of anxiety and depression. Right? Self-compassionate people recognize that they are suffering and are kind to themselves at these times, which reduces their anxiety and related depression. So it's not denying that you're struggling and, you know, doing the stiff upper lip and I'll get through it. You know,
showing a bit of vulnerability.
Absolutely. And you know, and there's lots of reasons why people don't like to show vulnerability. I was reading something the other day, and it was a friend of mine overseas, and she said, oh no, it wasn't. It was something else. I remember now. It was a woman who basically said, I am done being the rock for my family. Something had come up for her, and she goes, I'm done being the rock for my family because I'm the rock for everyone, and I can't be that anymore. And we think about what being the rock for your family is, and it's so important that we're there for our families. But what happens as women is we put ourselves last so many times that we are completely spent. There's nothing left for us. And it's really the other way around. We spend that time on caring for ourselves and knowing when we need that time, then we're better able to be there for our families. Because anyone who says, I'm done being the rock, means they haven't included themselves in that picture.
That's right. And one of my family members said to me, oh, you know, you're the glue that keeps the family together. And it's true. I mean, sometimes if I don't organise something, maybe some family members we won't see for a while or be in touch with, and it sort of falls back onto you. And after a while you sort of think, well, I'm a little bit sick of being the glue. I want someone to, you know, help me. But you're right. if you get to that point, it does show that you're not looking after yourself. And it's a shame because, it is good to be a rock for someone or for the family. But if it's taking away from you and your well-being, then that's not a good thing.
And it's usually when you lose your well-being that you realise that.
Yeah, after the event sort of thing.
Yeah, and as you're raising your children, just want to make it clear that, being the rock for everyone means that no one is the rock for themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
that.
I'd
love to try a little bit of an exercise with everyone. This exercise actually saw this on Oprah many years ago as a compassion exercise. And it was just so powerful that I just thought I'd try it and see how everyone finds it here. I've got a couple of exercises today that I'm pretty excited about. So let's start with this one. And we're going to start with breathing, but I want everyone to put their hand on their heart and close their eyes. And I want you to breathe deep into your tummy, into your gut. Feel that up, count to 5. And then to slowly exhale out of your nose or your mouth for 5 seconds. We're going to do this 3 times. Breathe in. Okay, we're going to do it again. Number 3. Now, notice how you feel. You might have calmed down. We're going to do a bit of a visualization. I want you to see yourself in front of a small house. This house is looking worn out, like it could use a renovation. And as you stand in front of that door, you wonder whether you should go in, but you feel compelled to open that door and step inside. You open that door, it's just one room. And just like the outside of the house, it could do with a bit of a facelift. You look around and you notice the dining room and the dining chairs that are a bit broken and a bit of a mess. The kitchen, perhaps one of the cupboard doors is hanging off the cupboards. The living room, you can see the tears in the couches. And then you notice this little nook. And in that nook, there's a single bed. On a bed, there's a person lying there. They're facing the wall. They look frail and they're curled up in the fetal position. And you start to walk towards them. And every step you take, you feel this overwhelming compassion for them. You feel your heart swell up with love and concern. They look so vulnerable and you want to help them. So you move closer and you say softly, "Hello, are you okay?" The person who turns to look at you, they're not the face of a stranger. They have your face. The person is you. How are you feeling now? What is coming up for you as you look at yourself with compassion, love, and concern? Did something change? Take some deep breaths. And with those questions in mind, open your eyes slowly when you are ready. How was that, Sue?
Very powerful, actually.
What did you find?
I think I felt sorry for the person. I felt sad that, and then, I suppose the realization that it's you is a little bit of a revelation because you don't expect that person to be you there.
Yes.
And then that makes you feel sad or it made me feel sad to think that I had allowed myself to get into that position.
But you're not in that position. So the I guess the house, the falling apart represents how we can let ourselves feel internally. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need our own emotional support and renovation through self-compassion. We can let our emotions, our well-being just deteriorate.
Yes.
Because we're always caring for others and worrying about others and putting everyone else first. So that house is really a representation of who you are in the inside, not who you are on the outside.
The outside. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
that's a very good exercise, and one I think that people should take the time to do frequently, because it does make you stop. It makes you just think and be in that moment and just having a look at where you are. Now, I wanted to move on to your you say that self-compassion involves acting the same way towards yourself as you would to a friend, which we've sort of said before. And so you also were telling me about some elements to self-compassion, which you wanted to share with us today. So
absolutely.
If we could move on to those, that'd be great.
Yeah. So these are not mine. They're Dr. Kristen Neff. She's from Dr. Kristen Neff. She's a specialist in self-compassion. And she says that there are 3 elements to self-compassion. And the first one is self-kindness versus judgment. So I've never known anyone to self-criticize themselves into well-being or compassion or potential or success or anything. The more you berate yourself, the more you judge yourself, the more you put yourself down, the harder it is to get ahead in life, basically. Because you will always cut down your potential, and you'll always be afraid to step into your purpose because you keep putting yourself down and you keep getting in your way. So it's really important to notice when you are going through these times where that self-talk happens or a situation happens. Every time we go to a place where we put ourselves down, we're going to a place where we've been wounded, where we've been hurt. Right? Because if that thing had been healed, and I was just listening to another person talking about this, every time we respond with something like we are hurt, is because something hasn't been healed within us. Yeah?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have no reaction to it.
That's right.
At all. Right? So it's really important to not judge your feelings, because we're going to have feelings. Feelings are a normal part of being human, but rather see them as a form of information. What's going on for me now? What triggered me? Why is this happening? What could I do differently? How do I want to feel? So, and I have an example of that shortly in the next exercise. But it's really about encouraging yourself and being your own champion in those times, and talking kindly to yourself through those times.
And I think being understanding of yourself as well, rather than, as you say, putting yourself down, thinking about how you would react if someone else is feeling that way. And also, I think the point that you've raised about accepting the different emotions that we have, because, we're not happy 100% of the time. Life isn't perfect, but accepting that, not putting yourself down for whatever emotion you're feeling, but actually trying to understand why you're feeling that in this particular moment. So no, that's good.
Absolutely. And one of the ways you can do that is to actually get really analytical if you wanted to. Like, for example, I'm starting to go through hormonal changes, and so I go through these different things that I haven't experienced before. So I've decided to become quite analytical about it, instead of it becoming this huge emotional burden, you know. And I journal and I write down, and they even talk about it in the article from the Harvard Health Publishing, and they say, write a letter to yourself, give yourself encouragement. These are all things. Be mindful. So being mindful is actually also noticing your cycles, noticing what you're going through. So I write down. It's like, today I'm feeling quite emotional, and I'm feeling like I'm really low in energy. And so I write that down, and then I, you know, some days I do my techniques, but sometimes I just want to wallow in that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Some days I just want to go to bed, and I do it without, you know, thinking about it too much. It's like my body's needing it, or I need to have this 2-hour nap, or I need to just follow that, you know, listening to your body. And then when you've journaled it for a couple of months, you start to see your patterns.
Yeah.
So I now know that I've gone through 2 weeks of really positive, easy emotion, and 2 weeks where I struggled. And so I need to do those things in that time to take care of myself.
Yes.
I could beat myself up, and I could go, what's wrong with me? This is just not fair. And why do I have to go through this? And, you know, this is absolute shit, you know, and I could really beat myself up about it, or I could just get really compassionate.
Yeah, being kind to yourself.
Absolutely. So the second point that she talks about is common humanity versus isolation. Now, what that means is that there is not a feeling or an experience that you are going through in life that someone else has not gone through. That we are all part of this human experience, and that we all experience aspects of it at different parts of our lives, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to lose someone you love. You may lose a job. You may lose a partner. You may lose a child. You may go bankrupt. You may go through a divorce. You may go through, an assault. Your place may get robbed. There are so many human experiences that they just are countless, and they're not all good.
No.
But remember, as part of that human experience, there's also wonderful things that happen.
I think it's the feeling too that, especially when bad things happen or not so good things happen, that we sort of think, well, we're the only ones that it's ever happened to. We don't think at the time. We're so wrapped up in ourselves and what we're going through that we don't stop to think, well, you know, it's happened before to somebody else. But of course, when great things are happening, we don't even, you know,
think about it.
So
no, we don't. So it is going to that point, that place within yourself, and saying to yourself that this is part of being human, and that's okay. That I will have good times and I will have bad times, and both will happen at different times. And sometimes they happen at the same time. You know, sometimes good and bad things happen at the same time. How many times do you hear a story about, you know, my mum passed away and then I had a baby?
Well, that happened to me. My dad passed away, and then a month later I had my daughter.
Yep. So, you know, bad and good things can happen at the same time. That's part of the human experience. So it's okay to experience it instead of pushing it away as this horrible thing. It's okay to experience it, and it's okay, you will get through it, because everyone does.
And as we said before, it's a matter of accepting how we're feeling, accepting the experience. You're not the only one to be going through this. So just that, because that can be comforting as well, to just think, well, I'm not the only one that's ever been through this experience. So if other people have been through it and come out the other side, well, I can too. So I think that there's comfort in knowing that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we are experiencing, and if I was just to give the example of COVID, for example, we as a country are experiencing it very differently to anyone else in the world. Us and New Zealand are probably the safest countries to be in right now.
Mm.
You know, when you hear about the stuff going on in India, now I was listening to the radio and they're saying because India produces so many vaccines, their capacity to produce vaccines is decreasing, which means there'll be less vaccines in Africa, which means Africa will be the next country to go through an explosion. So there's all these things happening overseas that while we're here, we're safe, but we might have a friend whose family is in India. We may have a friend whose family is in Brazil or in South America somewhere where they're having issues in one of those countries, or a friend who's got relatives in the UK, or a friend who's got relatives in Africa, or a friend that's got relatives in another country where it's really bad, and their level of stress and for those people who are experiencing that is like the helplessness to be there for your family and being really kind to yourself as you go through that and finding community. You know, this is where having your community is really, really important because it connects you and keeps you supported. And self-compassion is also knowing and reaching out. You know, it's like knowing I can't do this on my own right now. I can't, and I need someone. So not doing it completely on your own. Asking for help is an act of self-compassion.
Yeah, it's not easy to do sometimes, especially as, you know, people, say, for example, you've got someone who's always strong or appears to be strong, and then they ask for help. That's a bit of a, oh, I didn't expect that from that person. And so, you know, the way others react when you ask help will determine whether you ask help in the future or not. But I think that we have to remember that, you know, just because there are people who are strong, it doesn't mean that they don't have the same challenges that what we do. Sometimes they're better at coping with it, or they push through it, which is not always good for their mental well-being either. So having that strength as well to say, you know what, I'm usually okay, but I'm not today, and I need some help. I think that's so important, a message for everyone to feel comfortable in asking.
Yeah. And I think that also as a woman, if you're a strong, capable woman, and I've had this conversation with my husband because he's really happy I'm a strong, capable woman. And I said, yes, I'm a strong, capable woman, but that doesn't mean that at times I'm not going to say to you, I need you.
Yeah.
And because they get so used to us being strong, capable women, they're not mind readers, they're not psychics. They are not sometimes emotionally switched on like we are. And so it's okay to ask your husband for his support and not to go into that wounded child of you should know, right? You live with me, you know me better than anyone else. You should know I needed your support then, right? How many times have you maybe done that in the past? I don't know. I know that before I realized that I would go there because he's so used to me taking care of things. So now we have systems that we've set up, and one of them is for me not to assume he knows when I need his support.
Good idea. Yeah, and it's a matter of communication as well, isn't it? I mean, as you say, you can say, oh, well, you should have known that because you've been living with me for 30 years or whatever. But I don't think it matters how well you know a person. Sometimes you just have to be that little bit more aware, or you have to say to that person, well, look, I can't pick up on all your signals all the time. If you need some help, we need to, you know, both feel comfortable in asking for each other and not take it for granted that that person is strong and capable, so they don't need my support. Everyone needs support. But I like your idea about having the different processes in place so that that makes life easier as well.
Absolutely. So one of ours is that I go for a mecation every year. I get time out to be on my own and regroup. And it was interesting because I was watching, caught the end, one of the bits of Hughesy, I've got a problem last night. And the question was, Hughesy's sister-in-law wants to go on a holiday on her own. And he wanted to know from the panel if this is selfish. And of course, the single man with no kids was just, I was not happy with him. But then thank God Em Rusciano was on, and she's going, No, when I go on a holiday with my family, I do the same shit I do at home, just in a new location. So now I'm going on a holiday with my girlfriends so that I can do what I want to do and not have anyone ask for mum. And then when I get back, I'll be able to say, oh, hi, I love you more now. I'm not sick of the sound of your breath because I've had a break. And I just laughed so hard when I heard that, because people underestimate. You know, we as women will go away with our kids, with our grandkids, with our husbands, whatever. We're still doing what we did at home.
Yeah.
The only way to get complete time out and hold space just for yourself, and I advocate for this because I do it every year. It's changed a little bit now that we're here, in that I used to be able to go away for a week, but now my husband will take the kids for the weekend or go for a weekend somewhere, and I just get a couple of days here. But we do it more regularly, whereas before I just take a long break. Now we're just getting weekends. Every few months I get a long weekend where I'm completely on my own. And it's bliss. And it's not because I don't love my family. I value myself and needing to spend time with myself. The amount of healing and support that I do during those 2 or 3 days is intense. My last one, I channeled, the first day I channeled the spirit animal of the sloth, and I didn't get off the couch for an entire day, right? Just because I could. And then the second day I got up, I cooked, and I did meditations, and I did tapping, and I did healing, and I did journaling, and I did all this stuff that was about regrouping me. So important. That's self-compassion. That's saying I'm going to do things that support me.
And then you're a better person for it. And as that girl said, she comes back from holiday and she appreciates and loves her family more because she's had that little break where she could just relax and enjoy herself or just take time out. So I like the idea of a me-cation. But of course,
yes.
You know, and I know people that do that, but not many women do. I think there's still a stigma about that. Oh, you know, I better not go away without the family. So that's something that
and there's a guilt as well. We carry this guilt that you know, and I think that one of the blessings I've had is that my husband has taken on that giving me a break role for a long time, partly because he has been fly in, fly out, and he sees the importance of giving me a break and allowing me to have those nights when no one wakes me up, especially when the kids were younger. But it's something that he really values for himself. So he has a break every year too, separate from his work. And then if we can get some family support, we get a break together as well as a couple and reconnect. So, and they don't have to be expensive. You can just go to an Airbnb a few hours away, drive there, stay for a couple of days. It doesn't have to be very expensive. This is not a Bali trip or a resort thing if you don't want it to be. It can be budget, you know, cook, take nourishing meals. I remember one time I just took my Thermomix with me and I juiced the whole weekend. I just took fruit and veggies and juiced the whole weekend and just cleansed, you know. So it's really about connecting in and working out what you would need to do for yourself. So, all right, that kind of takes us off, but this is also part of it. So mindfulness versus over-identification. So becoming mindful about what you need, what your body needs, and also the thoughts you are thinking. Your thoughts are one of the biggest drivers of how you are in your health and well-being. So if you're saying things like, you always do this to me, things never go my way, nothing I do matters anyway, things never change, nothing good ever happens to me. What's happening is you're really going into a victim mindset. You're wallowing in generalizations. There's over-identifying with one thought. So then when good things start happening to you, you almost reject them because they're not a natural part of your thought patterns. Your brain isn't wired to think like that because you've told it so many times that nothing good ever happens to you, which is a signal of I'm not worthy of good things happening to me. So when good things happen, they don't impact. They almost like Teflon, gone, right? Or you can go, oh, that won't last. So that's another issue. So it's like it's not going to last. So it's really important to create balance in your thoughts. there's always an opposite to that thought that you're having. There's always another way of thinking about it. And that's when you notice, this is where mindfulness comes in. You're noticing the thought and going, okay, this isn't going well at the moment, but I know that there will be an outcome. Something different will change. One thing we know about life is life changes.
I think the important thing is that about being mindful, because so many times we've got our mind programmed to say automatically those responses, but we never really take the time to examine what we're saying and why we're saying it. Yeah. And I think that that's the unfortunate part, is that words like mindfulness, self-care, all this sort of thing is talked about so often that sometimes it loses the impact. But it is so important to just stop. And perhaps it's a medication that you need, or just some time to yourself to actually work on yourself and examine, do a little bit of homework on who you are and why you respond that way, and just look at the bad habits, because a lot of the things we say are just out of habit as well. That's the way you've always responded. So,
and there might be things we've heard from our parents. They've got nothing to do with us as well. So it might be the environment you've grown up in, and that's the kind of language that, or kind of thinking that was in your home. And the other thing, I love watching Red Table Talks with Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, and they had on Demi Moore and her daughters. And one of her daughters said to her, "Mum, you kept telling me to love myself, but I knew you didn't love yourself, so I found it really hard to do that." And we've got to remember as women that we are also the physical example and energy that our children pick up. So if we haven't got that care for ourselves, then they're getting the message that if I'm not worth caring for, then are they worth caring for? Really hard to learn self-compassion if you've grown up with a parent with no self-compassion.
And I would say that, unfortunately, a lot of women in our mother's generation, or it could be a cultural thing, they wouldn't be having this sort of conversation that we're having today. They'd they'd be battling on and doing that because that was their role in life, and that's what they had to do. That's what they were meant to do. And I think that it's so good that we can be open with our discussions now, and hopefully for our children, not just daughters, but sons as well, to teach them, because how you treat yourself as a woman is also going to show your sons how women should be treated, and the value of women. So if you're going to put yourself down all the time, why are your children going to look at you with any respect? Because, that's just mum. So they love you, but perhaps they might not respect you because they can see that you're not looking after yourself, or that you're always putting yourself down. And I've been there too. It takes a long time to turn it around to, really start to be comfortable with the person that you are and accept who you are. So I'm not saying that it's easy, but I've been there. And you put yourself down in a joking manner, but it's still coming across that you're berating yourself or you're putting yourself down, and that's just not showing people. If you don't respect yourself, how are others meant to respect you?
And it goes back to that saying, others will treat you how you allow them to treat you. So if you don't have any self-compassion or care for yourself, then you allow them to treat you in a shabby way. Right? Because you treat yourself that way. So it's really, really important to make that change incrementally. And also I will say, with any change, you will get resistance around you, because people are used to you behaving a certain way. People are used to you being the glue or the rock or the whatever role in that house or in that family. So when you start to care more about yourself and you show yourself more self-compassion, you also naturally create more boundaries. And I will do that and I won't do that because this serves me and that does not. And so you will come up against resistance, but it's so important to care for yourself, because the more negative self-talk you have, the more you're more likely to have ill health because of it.
That's right. That's right. So I think that brings us on to your exercise that you wanted
the
us
final
to do.
exercise. Yes. And I just also wanted to say one more thing before we finish. Self-compassion and any kind of compassion is contagious. So if you practice it, you practice being your own champion and your own support, and you do it out loud, people start doing it around you too. It's a bit like a yawn. It's catching. Isn't that wonderful? Yes. And I heard that from Kelly McGonigal, and she's a scientist on compassion and the neuroscience of the brain and the neuroscience of compassion. And I'm actually, the next exercise is one of hers, and I've just tweaked it a little bit for us here today. So we're going to start again with placing your hand over your heart and closing your eyes and inhaling and taking those slow, deep breaths in through your nose, 5 seconds, and deep into your gut. And in for 5. And out for 5. And we'll do just one more, just to be sure, just for luck. In for 5. And out through your mouth or your nose. And I'm going to ask you to do another visualization here. And it's to think about the people you love. Think about them and see them. And feel that love that you feel for them, and let your heart fill up with that love and that compassion. And repeat after me, either in your mind or out loud, it's up to you. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you know that you are loved. May you know that you are not alone. And just stay in that compassionate heart space. And think about all the women who are part of Women Living Well After 50, all this community. You don't know what they are going through right now. Some may be experiencing tough times. And with that feeling of love and compassion in your heart, repeat after me. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you know that you are loved. May you know that you are not alone. Feel that connection with all of them, that strong connection of support, and knowing that you are not alone and neither are they. Now, we're turning this to yourself. What is it that you need right now? Is it courage? Is it love? Healing? Peace? Breathe in this compassion for yourself, this love for yourself, and say, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you know that you are loved. May you know that you are not alone. And sit with that feeling of self-compassion. Now knowing that you are worthy of your own care, that you are deserving of your compassion too. Feel your heart grow with love as you think of yourself. When you find yourself feeling anxious, like something is off, or you catch yourself bullying yourself, go back to breathing and find this feeling by saying, May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you know that you are loved. May you know that you are not alone. And with that feeling of care, love, and compassion for yourself, take some more deep breaths. And when you are ready, open your eyes. How was that?
Yeah, no, that was a great exercise. And again, coming back to being mindful and just taking a few moments to close your eyes and focus on that. Beautiful.
Absolutely. So finding that tool bag, whether it's meditation, I use a lot of emotional freedom technique or tapping for myself, and I use it with my clients. It's such so find your powerful toolkit that allows you to do self-compassion, journaling, mindfulness, anything that allows you to connect back with yourself. And sometimes if I'm feeling out of sort with myself, and have you heard of muscle testing that
No.
kinesiologists do, or I don't know how to muscle test. So I use a pendulum. I pendulum and I ask my body questions, and I ask myself, my higher self questions, and I find ways to connect with my body and myself when I'm feeling out of sorts. So it doesn't matter what it is, what tool you find, go out there, do your due diligence and find things that resonate with you to take care of yourself and show yourself self-compassion and self-care.
Well, that's just been a great topic that we've covered today. I'm actually feeling a bit relaxed after that last exercise, closing
Yay!
my eyes and taking some deep breaths. So I'm not quite as, oh wow, exuberant at the moment, but I'm actually reveling in it, because I think that once you get to that level, you just feel so lovely and relaxed and calm. You want to keep that feeling around you for as long as you can. So thank you again, Maria, for joining us. It's always a pleasure, and I'm glad you're a regular on the show.
I'm glad I'm a regular on the show too.
Yes, and I'll be looking forward to our next chat. And to everyone else who joined us today, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation, and take some time to do those 2 exercises that Maria gave us, and to really show yourself some self-compassion by taking the time to connect with who you are and connect with what's going on with you. If you've enjoyed the topic, I'd love you to give us a like and leave us a comment. Share the episode with a friend who would probably benefit from this topic and conversation today. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. It's been great chatting with you all today. And remember, until next time, to live well and enjoy life. Bye for now.